You guys having fun? Pretty interesting? Some fantastic presentations so far. I am going to turn this over to Loren for the afternoon session. It'll be pretty interesting. Some of the folks will be ones you've already heard today, and some actually won't be presenting till tomorrow, so that'll just whet your appetite a little bit. Loren?
Thank you very much. Here's where we're going to get to the real truth. We're going to hear the real stories about how business works in America. Right, guys? Sure. I've just met these people, but they're all really interesting, as you know of some of them. What I'd like to do to start is if maybe we could just go right down the line and ask each of them to talk about a business they're involved with right now. Maybe tell us what the business is, what it does, and give us a sense of what the business model is. Why does it work if it is in fact working, which I presume
hope so,
it is.
Yes.
Or if you could tell us about your...
Sure. My farm is called Folsom and Pine Farm, and we're the fifth generation of produce farmers on our land in Columbus, Ohio. I left my job as a business management consultant in 2013 to save the farm. It was going under, and we pulled it out of bankruptcy and spent a year employing the Deming management method to observe the farm and see what we could do with it and see how we could bring it back to its old glory. We're in the middle of that right now, but I would say that for the 2.5 years we've been in business, it's looking to be a good success story.
Now, you obviously had a career before this.
Yes.
I'm curious, to what extent has that experience been relevant to what you're doing now?
Relevant.
Tell us what that career was.
Sure. I was like I said, a business management consultant for one of the big 4 professional services firms. And I did everything in the transformation space in human capital. And my last project was actually running the administrative end of a multi-million-dollar project. So I was in charge of financials and staffing. So pretty much everything I did in the 8 years I was with the firm, I do every day at the farm. So I'm the back office for human resources and financials, operations, and I'm also the lead Deming teacher for the farm.
So we often hear that there's this huge difference between corporate America and small business America. You're finding some common ground, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah. The psychology piece, it's all the same, and I would say when you're working with family members, it's a little more intense. We had to work through some pretty heavy-duty dysfunctions, but yeah, it is very common. And the interesting thing is when we started, it was operating like a family farm, just as you would expect. And I started asking a lot of really pointed questions operationally, and they kind of looked at me like, this is not how we do this. And my point was, we have to run this like a business if it's to survive. And we're doing this for a number of reasons. It has to work. And in the year that we've really put huge emphasis on the business aspect of it, the turnaround has been unbelievable.
I'm going to ask Dennis to do the same in a second, but I just want to emphasize, please jump in anytime if you have a question. I will call for questions later, but we don't have to wait for that. And that goes for everybody in the panel as well. Dennis, you're involved in a turnaround situation as well, I understand.
Well, currently I'm working with a fairly large organization. It's a turnaround for the state of Michigan, a little bit bigger than most of you would define as a small business. But I have had the opportunity to be a small business person myself for the last 15 years. And in the last few months, I've gotten very familiar with another small business, the Jet Hot Corporation. I'm going to say a little bit more about them tomorrow. A remarkable story of how one business has adopted Dr. Deming's principles and philosophy and managed their business.
Can you give us a little bit of a hint today?
Yeah,
they were in bankruptcy when you got involved, I understand. Is that correct?
I don't know anything about that.
Oh, okay.
I have to admit, I know nothing about that. I get a nod from yes, they were.
Do you employ more like a lean startup approach?
I use lean, certainly, but I tend to focus, first of all, on the system. Lean does not focus in on the system as much as on tools. It's been my experience. And though I'm considered to be a lean scholar by some, I consider myself a Deming apprentice because I've continued to learn from Deming and practicing his philosophies for quite a while. And one of the things that I've discovered, whether it's a small business or a large business, I learned this, by the way, working in telecommunications for 28 years, that an understanding of variation of people in a system, variation of everything that goes on in a system is all dependent upon understanding what is the aim of the many parts that must interact. It needs to be the same, and that applies in small businesses as well as large.
I don't want to blow your discussion tomorrow, but can you tell us what the company does and what you've done, what your role has been in helping set it in a different direction?
Well, I don't have to set Jet Hot in a different direction. They have a direction that they have directed themselves. It's rather remarkable as I discovered them looking over the shoulders of a couple of the people in the organization. I saw something that looked like Deming's Production Viewed as a System in 1950. Page 4 of Out of the Crisis, page 6 of the New Economics. I saw this on somebody's computer screen, and as I started interacting with Gordon and Cheryl and the other people at the company, I discovered that this is not just a picture on a screen, but it's the way they manage their business. And this operating system that they've adopted goes through all of 14 points, all of profound knowledge, everything I've been able to check. It looks like they already live this and practice it on a daily basis, and that's what makes it work.
Diana, some of us just heard you speak about a fairly substantial small business where you're CFO. You also have a printing business, don't you? No? Am I making that up?
New York Label and Box Works? That's not mine, that's Stephen.
No, I know, that's what you were just talking about.
Yes.
But don't you also have another business?
I do not.
Oh,
My husband does.
all right, I got confused.
But I am definitely about printing.
Well, tell us then about New York Label and Box. You just took us through an interesting, for those of you who were there.
You want to talk about policies? We could talk about policies.
I don't want to talk about policies. Tell us the business model, tell us why it works. This is a business that's been around for a long time.
Yes. It works because people have passion, commitment to the organization.
That's not a business model.
Yeah, no, that is a business model. And you would think, because I was just talking to some
There are a lot of people with
after-
passion that are out of
I
business
know.
too.
And we've touched on it before, but it really, yeah, we need money to keep on going. But that's not going to solve the problems. That's not going to keep the company in business. There's a lot of companies, and I've seen them firsthand, where they'll come into a market that is new, and they will make a ton of money, and they will be out of business in 5 years. So, and there will be that group of people that existed in that company, and they're good for that period of time, and then they can't find their compass again. And we know we have a compass, we have a direction, and we just continue to, through this philosophy, get better and continue to improve. And that really is why the company has stayed in business, because of that commitment that, not only the owners, but a large group of the workforce has had for a very long time. So that's kind of what keeps you, and identifying, you have to be able to exceed customers' expectations too. And with our clients, we look at them and we're like, okay, what else can we offer? We have aggressive turnaround times, and we manage to, by improving systems, meet those. And we know how important it is, because we see what goes on with their production lines and the demands that are on them, and it keeps on changing. So we're there to help them to make their business better. So when you have those kind of relationships, you'll stay in business.
So you're in a business where you have competition, people could get the same stuff in
Oh,
other
fierce.
places.
Yeah.
So that's why the passion is so important. You
Yeah.
deliver something beyond just the
And the
product.
commitment to quality, because, you can go out and get a blank label anywhere. You can go out and get a blank box anywhere, but if you want something that's gonna sell your product, then you should come to New York Label and Box Works. Because we're gonna help you every step of the way. Get that product onto a shelf, get it noticed, and get, you know, that inventory that you have moving. So we'll help you to succeed.
What's the revenue of that business again?
I don't talk numbers. Didn't you learn that just a moment ago?
I did, that's why I asked.
I don't like talking numbers.
TJ, you have a software business.
Correct, software and process improvement, actually. I know they seem so separate, but they actually go together hand in hand. What we do is, it started as a software business. So we do custom software for different sizes of companies. We have customers from Fortune 50 companies, as well as we have small, I would say maybe mid-sized businesses that we provide different software solutions. But we also do process improvement because at the beginning of our business, we said, okay, we need to differentiate ourselves. We don't want to be just another consulting company. So how can we do this? Usually software needs comes from a business problem. The client has a business problem and you need to solve it, and they want to solve it with software. And we ask a lot of whys and we ask a lot of hows. So to understand their process, how they work, and we map their workflow. And through that, we actually managed to identify a lot of bottlenecks for them, which resulted in less business for us, maybe from a pure consultancy point of view, but it resulted in more value to the customer. And that's what we focus on, value to the customer. And guess what? In the end, in the long run, that actually resulted more business for us because all of our customers are good friends with us. We actually see them as our partners, and they see us like that too, I believe, because we have, on the average, our customers are long-term customers. We have them for 7-8 years, those big companies. So we must be doing something right.
For those of us who are non-technical, could you give us an example of the kind of client that would come to you and the kind of problem you would solve for them?
Yes, it could be, for example, a lot of you have different software products that's working together, and it's possible that they're not connecting to each other, they're not talking to each other. You might just need a dashboard application that gets the information from different systems and just provides you reports on a daily basis, hourly basis, or real time. Or it might be an HR program and an accounting program and a CRM, which is the customer relations management software. And they may not be talking to each other because they're legacy programs that are coming out from 1980s. And you just say, look, I just want to synchronize data between them. And we just go and build that software that silently sits in the background and does that. Or any of the softwares that you're using is not helping you because for whatever reason you have business changes, you have new requirements, then we just go and build that program, the whole system from scratch. While doing that, of course, we identified processes. And on top of that, on the other hand, not just software, but we have had some manufacturing companies that come to us. And we gave them cultural training because we're very big on corporate culture and systems thinking. We have a very holistic approach to everything we do. And they will basically say, okay, we're interested in this thing that they call lean, Deming. Usually it's the hot word that managers are interested, not because they identify a problem. It starts like that, and from there on we manage to help a lot of manufacturing companies too, because I do have a paper manufacturing background as well as software.
I'm curious, we've discussed a lot today, things that are kind of in the control of management, what management can do at any given time. But over the last 5 or 6 years, we've been through such an interesting, turbulent time economically, really tough times coming back. Today, things seem to be better for most businesses. I'm curious for each of you, and anybody feel free to jump in here, to what extent have you felt buffeted by outside forces? To what extent have you felt as though you have been in control of your mission and able to affect the outcome you've been looking for despite what's going on externally? Anybody? Lori?
Yeah, I'll take that. I think that we have been really supported by outside forces, in part because everybody eats, right? That's easy. It's an easy sell when you're selling local produce. And as people have turned to eating more healthily and getting away from big agriculture and food manufacturing, we've seen a huge draw for our produce. And we have greenhouses, so we can grow all year long. And, so for us, once we figured out our systems and what we were going to grow and how we were going to grow it, and actually had a handle on how much we could produce, it gave us an opportunity then to look at the distinct distribution channels you could use to sell it all, because we knew the addressable market was much larger than what we could ever produce. So strangely, it is a very high-risk business because it's still farming, but in some ways it's a lower-risk business because we know what the market is for it. So the macro forces have been very kind to us.
Was that true even during the down period for the economy? Was the trend in your direction so strong that it didn't matter?
It could have been, although I was not running the farm at the time. So my impression, I was not heavily involved in the farm when it was going in the wrong direction. But my impression was it had been going down for probably a decade before it actually was almost unsalvageable. So the market before had been more for flowers and bedding plants on that property, and when disposable income started to shrink, people stopped investing in their homes, and that ultimately was the demise of the farm. And when we decided to bring it back, we knew that we could not depend on flowers and bedding plants. We needed to utilize those greenhouses almost all the time, and that's why we decided produce was the way to go. We had done produce back in the day, whatever that is, and that's what we wanted to come back to.
Is there anything holding you back today? Is there anything that you're running up against?
Space. Actually, we need more land. And that's tough because we were very lucky the way we were able to buy the farm. We bought all the infrastructure too. And to start with a new piece of land, farmland is becoming very expensive again, so it's capital intense. So we're doing things to increase density on the footprint that we have first. So we'll go to vertical growing, and then we'll go to hydroponic or aquaponic, and then we'll have to do something different. So that's our biggest constraint right now.
Is that expensive?
Going to aquaponic, oh yes. You've probably seen a lot of large grow operations popping up around the country where they're doing them with very expensive grow lights and multi-story buildings, and unless those are really well funded by a municipality, those can crumble under the intensity of the initial investment. You have to sell a lot of lettuce. Yeah. It's light.
For us, it was actually during financial hardships, GFC, and all that. Of course, all the projects have stopped, so there were no software projects, so to speak. But what happened is during the years we gained our customers' trust, and that's a very important thing to have. So what we did is we went to them, and they knew because we were involved also in process improvement in various departments with them. We actually went to them and say, look, in these hard times, basically everybody is doing the same thing. Why don't you just differentiate yourselves? And we introduced them to Dr. Deming, and we said, provide more value to your customer, and they will come to you. And we went on that path. And we actually managed to not only stay business, but grow a bit too during those hard years.
What did it take to win their trust? What did you have to do to set that in motion?
Just years of delivering good solutions. Again, I will emphasize value. I say value a lot because that's really what we focus on. It's just providing something to them that works for them. And sometimes, it is sometimes challenging because it could be a solution that they're not even thinking of, but you need to kind of get them there by just asking a lot of questions. If you ask a lot of questions to people, you actually force them to define their process, and that actually opens a lot of conversation.
Is there anything holding you back today?
Right now, I would say the corporate culture in general. If it ain't broken, why fix it? We've been doing this way of business for the last 50 years. There is no need to improve or fail to see the systems thinking. And when I say systems thinking, we actually look at the whole user experience of your products or services from the initial point that they see your ad to the level of servicing and everything in between. And that kind of approach is hard. But what we now are trying to do is get into universities, because we find that when you go to managers, it can be sometimes too late. They already have their way set. If you go to universities and give these Dr. Deming methodology lectures, then we can actually get the students before they get into workforce, and hopefully we can get the next generation and maybe provide more value to the society. And we have a couple universities interested in Australia. They invited Amber actually to give lectures, and we'll see where it takes us, but that's the road we're in right now.
Interesting. How about for you, Diana? The external impact of the economy, what?
See, I don't see it. I hate to say this, there's a whole room of people out there. I don't see it improving.
Really?
Yeah, there was a time where our competition were other companies our size. We're now going up against big corporations, and they will take the work that we consider good work at almost a loss just to be able to keep their machines running. And that is hard for us to compete with. So, that's why we've turned internally and said, okay, what can we do to, again, improve the system, improve the efficiency to compete, because that's what we're seeing. In our industry, it's based on quantity. So, the big corporations, you say, we don't want to look at anything that's under 5,000 pieces. Now, they're looking at things that are 1,000. And they're coming at us very aggressively. So that has been extremely challenging for us. I have all the confidence in the team, like some of you just heard, that we will get through it, but it's a different way of thinking. And if we didn't have the system thinking that we had as the foundation to go off of, we would really be struggling. So I don't see it that way, though I think the overall economy, yes, has improved. For our particular industry, it's a different kind of environment than it was.
Are there more, is the market the same? Is it still, your particular market still struggling, or is it just, as more people are coming into it, even if it's growing, it doesn't matter, it doesn't get to you because you have new competition?
I think what happened when the economy took the turn, and this is just in my opinion, and I don't have data because someone will challenge me on this, I'm sure. What happened was the bigger corporations, a lot of the companies our size or even smaller, like, I'm done. It wasn't easy, the margins were shrinking, so I went out. And if they had something that would be an additional offering that these bigger corporations could then give to the customers, they're like, okay, I'll gobble you up, and I'll gobble you up, and I'll gobble you up. So the group that exists in the industry now, it's a smaller number of companies, and yes, because of all these mergers and acquisitions that took place, they became larger, and that I think is what part of the problem is. So the number has shrunk, but the industry and the demand has remained the same, if not increased, but it's now the direction that the work is going has changed.
How have you dealt with that?
Like I said, we turn inward and say, okay, so this is what we're dealing with. What do we do? New marketing strategies. Again, we even, the efficiencies, we just keep on bringing down costs through driving in the quality. And I have to say, it's very impressive through the years that we have a very good understanding of how we run. We have a very impressive inventory of equipment, and we know what each one of those presses is capable of. We know how to get the best out of it. We really do. We value the people as well. You've already heard that, so this is kind of repetitive. But we do value everyone's input, and we need it because everyone's knocking on our door to take our customers away. And, our clients, they're great. And they come to us because, like I had said before, we help them to get themselves out there and to grow. And, It's all about quality.
What have you seen, Dennis?
I've seen some of the same complacency over the last 8 years. It get worse. Kevin used a phrase earlier this morning to describe Dr. Deming's last comments with him about he was desperate. And I think the desperation has changed in my observation. Companies are not just desperately trying to figure out how do we stay afloat. I've been desperate in trying to help them figure out that cutting training, cutting consulting from outside is a wrong approach. They are stuck in the prevailing style of management. On the other hand, that is a ripe field with many opportunities for improvement. And it's remarkable how, as the economy has improved for some of my customers, that they are now willing to talk, but they're still very afraid of, shall we say, making an investment that doesn't have immediate return. We've heard it from a number of people today, and most recently from Diana, this idea of the investment in people, thinking of the money we spend to teach people how to be more productive. We don't think of investment in our people. And so that is an observation that I've had about the companies that are more successful now that the economy is recovering. They are people who've made investments in training and education throughout the recession.
Questions, please.
My question is to Diane. You mentioned that larger corporations are now getting into your market space. Are you also going into the larger corporations market space? Is that one of your strategies?
We would need
Could you repeat the question?
Are we going into the larger corporations' markets?
The way they're coming into yours.
The way they're coming into ours. Again, from what I see, we would need to invest in some additional equipment to be able to do that. Could we go after the middle ground? Yes, we could. But would we be compromising ourselves? Maybe. So we're not, and the way they approach is not what we want to be known for. They struggle with quality at times. We like the consistency that we deliver. So we'll maybe, again, I don't want to speak for the team because I think it's something, if that becomes our strategy, it's something that we have to discuss as a team and see the ripple effect and if it's something that we should. But their market, it was not quality, it's not quality driven. And I think now, because that has dried up some, that's why they're now in our place. So I don't know, it's something we would have to think about. But
Please.
This question, do you market on total quality? If your competitor has less quality than you, that it costs the customer a lot more money than yours would, I mean, do you market them on total quality, total cost, your competitor versus you? Does that make sense?
we do always, I mean, we are quality driven, we make that known. And what was the other part of the question? It's getting late. I keep on saying it, so I'm sorry. We don't, it's not like we go and we make these posters. We're known for quality. Some of the clients are willing to pay for that, and others don't see the value in that. And that's been a struggle, because they'll come back and they'll be like, well, I want this label to be registered, but I don't want to pay extra for it. In some cases, you have to. And to educate them on that and say, you know, this value going forward that's going to be added to your organization by going about it this way, we don't always get them to buy into that at all.
I would think they would have experience. If they have bad quality product, it's going to cost them more throughout their system, right?
It absolutely does.
And so, I mean, versus
And you know what?
a little more, but getting less total cost.
Right.
You're more marketable, I would think, from that perspective.
And what's unfortunate is people do not do a good job at times identifying the soft costs. And that's where a lot of that falls. So until more do, we will continue to have that struggle.
Another question? Kevin?
TJ, I thought it was really interesting where you were talking about how you and Amber are, besides just, working on your business, how you're reaching out into the education community and how you see that value in them coming out, the students coming out, having an understanding rather than the typical prevailing style of management, going into business and then having to turn that around. Can you talk a little bit more about how you're doing that? And are you seeing other organizations that are doing that same type of thing, focusing on that and seeing that importance?
Well, we're kind of lucky in that sense because Amber has graduated from Wollongong University. She's an alumni of Wollongong University, where she has, actually she's the one who introduced me to Dr. Deming because she has a formal education of Kaizen. So through learning about Kaizen, you immediately go into Dr. Deming. That's impossible. Thank you. Naturally, the first educational institute we went to was Wollongong University because they're also one of the most progressive universities in Australia. And they were very open to this idea. They're interested in more giving these lectures to more engineering students, but we want to actually extend it to business administration students because they will be the managers. The engineers usually go on to work on the front line or Gemba or your workplace. So we basically approached them and almost a business proposal saying that, look, this is the benefit they will get. And to our delight, they were like, yep, you were what we were looking for. And then they said to Amber, hey, why don't you come next season and start lectures? So we need to prepare that now, the whole thing. But thanks God, I mean, we have 2 excellent textbooks in our hands. So we have the source written for us already. So that will be good. As far as other companies that do this, I do not know any in Australia. We're from Australia, by the way. I do not know any from Australia, but I do believe David Langford is doing a lot of good things in educational area, and we are in talks with him as well. We talked to him, we know David, and we want to actually extend this to get his ideas, if we can get this even to high school level. Because we believe the earlier you catch somebody, the students, the better it will be, which is actually part of our talk tomorrow. And if we can go to even primary school level, that's even better. And I say primary school because recently we have studied some Japanese education system, and it's very different to ours. The first few years, they don't have any grading, they don't have any individualism whatsoever. They actually really focus on teamwork and get things done while you're sharing the job, sharing the work. Because they say, we believe that the individual talents will come later in life anyway, no matter what you do, because they're interested in. But at the very early years, they actually focus on teamwork and collaboration and working together. So nobody's like, it's all me, which was very interesting. So we hope that we can find a middle ground. Of course, there's cultural differences too, so one has to take that into consideration. But hopefully, there could be a middle ground between the system we have right now, which everybody, I think, agrees that it's not working too well, especially universities being a bit cut out of real world, so to speak. I don't know how it is here, but in Australia, they have a bit of a problem that their student levels are dropping because they're expensive to begin with. And then the second thing is students start to believe that if they go into business after high school to work, instead of going to college, they get more value out of it and they get more experience. So which means that there is some kind of disconnect in the universities and real world. And we see this while we're interviewing different developers, software developers as well. So I guess I got off track a bit, but to sum it up, we're gonna try to get the students educated in Dr. Deming's way as early as possible. And hopefully David Langford is gonna help us do some more.
More questions?
What's the role of titles? What's your opinion on titles in an organization, hierarchy versus a flatter organization?
Anybody?
I hate titles.
We don't use them. The only titles we have are grower, farmer. That's it.
I don't, you work as a team. What is a title? Why do you need a title? What is the purpose of a title?
An interesting observation, in the last couple of weeks, I had a chance to learn from some people at the state of Michigan when I asked them to introduce who they were, what was their title, and what gave them joy. 7 out of 12 people identified that I'm temporarily working out of my grade at whatever the title was. And 3 of that group identified that there was no joy in their work. And I had a revelation that that might be connected. I'm still doing research.
For us, we have titles only because to satisfy outside world, because they need a point of contact somehow. Within our own little company, we're flat.
Anybody else? Well, let me ask you this. If maybe we go down the line one more time. If somebody came to you today and said, I'm thinking about starting a business, what's the most important thing I need to know?
I think you'd start with, have a good performance appraisal system.
No performance appraisal system.
Exactly.
Where should they go to get help with that?
The new economics.
New economics, exactly.
You need that organizational chart, start that.
Yeah. I think the most important aha for my team was contemplating our system as including everything that's upstream of us, including all of our providers, to our customers. And historically, the family kind of looked inward and said, we're going to grow this stuff and hopefully we'll sell it. And when we started actually engaging with the community and talking to customers and chefs and food distributors and finding out what their needs were and how we could add value, the conversations among us became so much more robust. And instead of my grower looking at himself as just a grower and my planner looking at himself just as an agricultural planner, we were all talking about the entire system. So I would say, the most important thing is just understanding who's in that system and getting to know them very well.
I'd have to echo that. Understanding the system and the aim of the system and who are all the people that are in it is critical. Thinking of the customer, the suppliers that you might have, as well as the team members who help you deliver value, whether you're a manager, a leader, you're working as a supplier to somebody else, or a customer to somebody else at all times. And understanding the aim of the system you're in, understanding the system you're in, is critical to understand. And the new economics is a great place to start.
Diane?
It really is about joy and work. Not only New York Label and Box works. I mean, there's other companies that I've seen, and the owners don't involve the people. I hate to sound like a broken record here, but they really don't. And if you want to really, create the systems, and it is all about system, you have to involve your people. You have to value your people. Continuous learning. You should never think like there's nothing more to learn. There's always something more to learn. And you have to keep your pulse on what's going on, both internally and externally, and listen to what everyone has to say.
It
I
seems
can't
so
stress that
obvious.
enough.
It's hard to believe people don't
And
get it.
and it's so hard.
Where does it go off? Where's the point where someone loses track of that? Because I know even well-meaning people lose track of it.
You know what? It's the firefighter. Like, you go in and you start your day saying, this is what's important. This is what I got to get. This is what needs to be done today, and I have to get everyone involved. And then a client will call up and be like, where's my job? And guess what? Now you're taking a totally different direction. Do you ever get back to what your original intention was? Sometimes, but not always. And I think that's what I've seen that happen quite a bit. And then the frustration level gets higher and higher and higher, and the conversations don't happen. And before you know it, you have a really broken business model. But it is that, it's we, as a society, too easily get redirected and distracted and don't get back. We lose our compass. And we don't get back to, what's important here. But yeah, to say it sounds so easy. But to actually be doing it daily, it can be a real struggle at times.
TJ, you must talk to a lot of young people who are thinking about starting a business.
Yes, we do get involved with lean startup area as well, and we go through them. And basically, what we our advice to them is limit your work in progress, which means avoid context switching, avoid doing 5 things at the same time. Do one thing, finish that, go to the next job. Because if you try to do 5 things at the same time, you will end up doing nothing. And the second one is give some slack time. If somebody is working 100% all the time, they have no time to be creative. They have no time to breathe. So without slack, there cannot be any improvement. So give them some slack time so they can come and reflect on what they're doing and even innovate. And the third one is, again, with innovation, have the corporate culture, even if you're a small team, it doesn't matter, that your people can fail. Because only through failure you learn. If you're always successful, you'll never learn anything. And nobody's ever always successful. So yes, let them fail within certain limits, obviously, but let them fail, because failure, if they are not afraid, basically, they're then gonna not be afraid of trying new things and innovate. Again, that comes to innovation and creation, and then go and read Dr. Deming's 2 books.
That's a great point.
And on that note, thank you all. Thank you for sharing. I hope you.
Anybody enjoyed as much as I did.